Welcome to the Lambgoat Vanflip podcast. We are doing attempt number 2 since we had some internet connections just briefly when we just started the last time. However, I am joined today with Mike Hranica, singer for the band Devil Wears Prada, but also author and entrepreneur and other all-around cool guy. So welcome to the show, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you very much, man. Sorry for technical issues. That's podcasting, I guess.
That is podcasting. But, I think it could have been half my end. And, I know you're sitting in a lot somewhere just on your cell phone, but it could have also been me. So who knows? We'll never actually know. But
we'll talk about it, yeah.
But the group, the Devil Wears Prada, the band, not the book or movie, just released, late last month. It's not a studio album. It's an EP, Zombie 2, which has been getting all the praise lately. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thank you kindly. We're very excited. It's been in the works for a long while with the pandemic. We took our time rolling it out. But yeah, it's out there now and we're stoked.
Yeah, and like I said, it's been getting a whirlwind of attention. I have some of your accolades pulled up from the first week of the album being out. It was the number one current hard music album, number one independent current album, the number 4 current rock album, number 5 internet album, and then you had a couple other number 6 on the LP vinyl albums, and I'm assuming that's physical copies, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, fans dig the vinyl.
And then 8 top current album, number 9 Billboard top album, number 15 on the digital albums. Do you guys know where you placed already in the grand scheme of like the Billboard 200? Do you know what position you were in, or is that not thrown in there because it was an EP?
I have no idea. I know that the first one charted, and I've seen the graphic of all the lovely rankings, if that's the correct terminology, since this thing dropped. We're just very excited, and it feels like a good time in terms of momentum and energy and in the product camp. So I don't know. I might not be the best person to ask that question, but yeah, it's a lot of nice numbers. There's no doubt there.
Yeah, we'll just go ahead with you're not the kind of guy that cares about those SoundScan numbers. So wherever you fall, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll just go with that. We'll go with that. So the biggest difference, I mean, I don't want to harp too much on the EP, but obviously it's brand new, so let's go in and get into it. But the biggest difference, I guess, for me and maybe some of your fan base that has been around for a couple of years, it's a little bit heavier this time around, and I think a lot of the fans really, really enjoyed that. I don't necessarily know if it's you guys going back towards your early roots, or if it's just something that you kind of played with on this little EP. Do you plan on kind of maintaining that kind of heaviness and maybe into the next release?
Yeah, I think at least from where I'm sitting at, I kind of feel like we just need to do a better job kind of separating what's heavy and what's not heavy, and what we consider more like rock oriented, like that side of our band. I'm not sure how that kind of looks. We are writing already again now and grinding away. So I'm excited to see where this goes now, with so many folks excited about the EP. But I don't know, the songwriting is in a completely different world than the first one, in terms of like Chris, one of the original members, wrote pretty much everything musically for the first one. And then, John and Kyle wrote this one musically on that side. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a follow-up in a way, but they're not two competing characters is the way I kind of see it. We just kind of looked at this and said, like, what does heavy for Prada look like in 2020, 2021?
Nice. And it is the second Zombie number 2. You have Zombie number 1 as a previously released EP as well. Is there like a correlation between the two, whether it be lyrically or storylines or anything like that, or do you just like the name because I don't know, you just like the name?
No. There was there was a character that I created in the first one. I thought about bringing back for the second one, but it kind of felt like that would have been, I don't know if desperate's the word, but it didn't feel right. So, I just wanted to kind of create some separation as far as going on about a zombie apocalypse and a little bit of a different way, and try not to just rehash the same components I did 10, 11 years ago.
Cool. Well, that's cool. It's cool that, also that you do have these kind of like weird characters and storylines within the music, because you find a lot of bands do that. And it's kind of like, interesting, because also I guess that can branch out into other things, like, other forms of content / medium for the band to use as well. Like you could have like a book or a comic book or a graphic novel that accompanies, the music with it. Do you ever think about doing something like that, or?
We did a comic book on the first EP, and we actually had a really awesome comic book we put together for our second EP, the Space EP, mm-hmm. and the label never did anything with it. So it's been sitting on the back burner, and it's like a very a sore spot for us. As far as like all the work we put into that, and it just never saw the light of day. So with that, there was certainly an idea as far as doing another comic book, but I don't know. We were definitely really soaked up with doing the live stream we did with it.
That's cool. And you guys released The Act a couple years ago as well. So you guys have kind of been on like an upward trajectory, it feels like, in the last handful of years, even though your band has been around, and not saying that you weren't a big band, obviously, in the beginning, because you guys, this is your first band, and you got signed in this band, and you kind of been doing this for the entire time, like, 16 years or something. So, like, what do you think helped, like, the second wind of Prada in the last couple years here? And what does it take to maintain something like that? You know what I mean? Like, for the people that are in bands and music in general, like, what else would they need to maybe do to kind of have the same kind of trajectory?
I think, there is, like, analytically speaking, you can look at basically like what the numbers say as far as when the band peaked. And, it's not something that I think any artist really is going to want to dig too far into, because as an artist, and just as an individual generally, I maintain a very real sense of non-complacency as far as always, a better song to be written or a better idea to be born. So I don't know. I think that, people have called the first zombie EP a cult classic, which feels a little hokey, but I think that over the course of these years, people's taste develops, and I think a lot of people found us in their earlier years and might, your taste does progress and whatnot, you might tune out of a band. Z2 it was just fun to make, and it was fun to try to hash out and bring those listeners back and kind of say like, hey, we're still here, we're still doing this. And I feel like coming out of my mouth, that feels like it's like super desperate or something, but I don't know. It was just like we got called off a tour with the pandemic. It was around 10 year of zombie, and we were like, well, like, let's do some songs, and then do like a 7-inch, and then when the pandemic lengthened, we just wanted to do more and create more of a project out of it. And in terms of like on the label side of things and all the non-exciting business side of things, in terms of as to your question, it's definitely done more than we could expect or what we had anticipated. And in terms of like an artist's seeing longevity and whatnot, also to your question, I also just think it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't like the word success. It feels so arrogant to say like, I'm successful. Like, but so with that, I mean, I've just been doing this band for half my life, and just grinding, and there are good days, bad days, like with anything, but things have been exciting with generating more momentum as of late with the new EP. And I know that, we of course were involved in more than one gimmick as a very young band and Warped Tour years and whatnot. But again, half my life has passed since then,
Right.
and there's still something important to me to playing in this band. So I think that's kind of thinned the herd or kind of weeded out some of the lesser of those Warped bands, back in the day that kind of like just found themselves on main stage one day, and then the next thing they know, they're like, oh, we only had one trick. Not to say that they would be so aware, but that's something that Prod has always tried to avoid and always tried to maintain a level of, a heightened level of musicianship versus what you might see around the metalcore world.
Well, your cover is definitely still a banger. I know it came out many, many years ago, and I know a lot of people still jam it. So don't look so down or so hard on yourself about that. Bands do cover songs all the time. So
yeah, it's defined us much more than any of us would have liked. Well, especially Jeremy and I as being the two original members playing in the band now, but. If people like it, like it, stream it, whatever, but we're not going to play it live.
Yeah, well, there you go. Now you've heard it. You're not going to hear it live or anything like that. But, a lot of bands do, unfortunately, hate their cover songs over time because, again, it is something that draws in, a broader audience, kind of, so to speak. And, it is what it is. It's a love and a hate thing, I'm sure, for a lot of musicians out there. But anyway. You got some. Your hands are in the artwork. You do some of the. You don't do the artwork for your band or anything like that, like merch designs or album cover artwork. But I know that you like to have your hands in it. So I would like to kind of go through like what was your idea for the cover of this this EP, the Zombie 2 EP. Like, what was your thought process and goal in this cover art?
So all the photography for the EP is done by one of my very, very dear friends, Anthony Barlett. He's been shooting in the band now for quite a long while. Anthony and I worked together on a hockey brand as well. But basically, the first EP was kind of just throwing Adam L. Macias out in the wild, who did those photos, and refining what he brought back. And I just wanted to do the same thing with Anthony. It's a sort of double-edged sword, I think, for a lot of people, including myself, as far as like what the pandemic has done, as far as like it's some days, you feel like it takes 10 years to get through because it's so slow. And then other days, there's not enough seconds in the day to actually get anything done. So with that, I was pretty hands off as to what Anthony did photo wise, and then layout wise with Micah. Micah's another dear friend who him and I run a coffee company together. So just things I like to do, outside of the band, but also using wonderful friends of mine and their talents to bring into Prada world. And that's just something that's kind of developed. I guess the first one would have been with Roots Above quite a while ago, as far as the art direction there, and the painting done by Dan Seagrave, who then did Dead Throne, our fourth record, and then most recently I brought back to do The Act, which is the newest full length from Prada. So it's exciting for me. It's still like this kind of youthful vigor I get, the same as like being a local band or something, and you have like a batch of t-shirts printed and you're like, oh my God, like, I saw it on a screen and now I'm holding it, and someone just spent $20 for that shirt and whatnot. Like, there's something in me that gets real excitement out of that. And heading the visual side of Prada when it comes to album artwork is something that brings me great fulfillment, and something that I've loved sort of handling over the years.
That's cool. What was the idea behind the Axe artwork? Because that seems like a more, I don't want to say serious piece of art, but it definitely feels more put together.
Yeah, so I wanted to go back to Dan Seagrave just because um I don't know, just some of the stuff I was seeing online and like feeling inspired by.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted something that was drastically more severe than what the musical content is. Like something that like almost the same as like Transit Blues, the record before that, is highly, highly minimal when we're not by any means a very minimal band. This time around, I wanted something that was so drastic and severe, even though the act is our most rock inclined record and probably the least, I think a lot of people would say like least heavy. Um, so I wanted something to create contrast there. And there's a very real notion of hell throughout the act. In my struggles as a former Christian and heaven, hell, and approaching that subject within or on some of the songs within the act. So I went to Seagrave again, and we wanted to develop something that was like the a sort of take on Dante's.
Mm-hmm.
In like the lower rings of hell is what Seagrave and I wanted to do there, and he's insanely good.
Yeah, that's
I'll
awesome.
credit him for sure. Yeah.
You kind of touched a little bit on the former Christian situation, and that was something I kind of wanted to bring up later. But since you mentioned it now, I find that when I do this kind of podcast, I've talked to a lot of individuals that have grown up in that kind of situation. I myself did as well, but I'm no longer a practicing, person that goes to church or anything like that. I have my own spiritual views of the world and whatnot. But what kind of made you decide to kind of like not give that up, but just change your view? Was it, music? Was it traveling because of music, or just, you just weren't getting answers to questions you might have had?
My easy joke is that I say Donald Trump stole my faith from me.
Mm.
Outside of just the present circumstances and through a government lens, it was also a lot of travel and seeing a lot more of the world. Probably one of the things I hate most about the pandemic, if not the thing I hate most, is not traveling internationally and seeing other places and other cultures and societies. And a big part of that was kind of realizing that Christianity almost feels more like patriotism or like nationalism or Americanism, if you would want to call it that, than an actual faith according to what I accepted from biblical teachings. So I don't know. I don't know what the categorization I would call myself these days. Sometimes I say I'm a Christian that doesn't believe in God, or I believe in God, but no longer as a Christian. I know that it's a definitive matter that I'm not so definitive with anymore.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, well, and of course you get older, and you get more mature, and more you see more, you do more, you have more experiences, and those things can change views in general. And like we all have our path, so to speak. So like it comes and goes for us in different times. But it's interesting because you kind of had the same around about the same situation happen with you as like JB from August Burns Red. He said like traveling the world really kind of opened his eyes and yada yada yada. So, but that was interesting.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, when I first became so lucky as to be able to travel playing music, I quickly realized or gained a lot of perspective as to the sort of narrow-mindedness of American ideals due to a lack of travel. And it's something that I seek, and I see such importance in. So it doesn't come as a surprise to know that, it molds and bends and changes more people than, just myself.
Right, of course. And speaking of travel, you kind of seem like a guy who loves to travel, but also you don't seem like the kind of guy that likes to stay in one area for too long. You've moved around quite a bit, and most recently, I think you live in Wisconsin. Or Minnesota?
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay,
Yep,
yeah.
I live in Milwaukee.
What brought you to Milwaukee? Because weren't you living? You were in Pittsburgh, right? And then you moved to, or you were born in Pittsburgh, moved to Ohio, and then spent some time in Chicago or something, right?
Yes. So I was born in Pittsburgh. I mostly grew up in Ohio. My first apartment was in Cincinnati, though I grew up outside Dayton. And then I moved to Chicago and lived there nearly 9 years. At which point I decided I wanted to slow things down and have a different pace to my life. But at the same time, I love Chicago. So I live, I'm actually between places at the moment, which has been hectic. But when there's not a pandemic, I'm down in Chicago, usually about once a week, maybe, 2 to 3 times a month. So I get to enjoy all the cultural kind of pluses of music in Chicago and, shows coming around more down there than up here. But at the same time, be able to slow things down. And the way I kind of describe it is that in Chicago, the city dictates your pace. And here, I can dictate my own pace. Mm-hmm. So it's been awesome. I know a lot of people are like, why would you ever move to Wisconsin? Even a lot of people that have grew up here. But it's a real gem to me, and it really speaks to me. And the people as well around Milwaukee, just kind of like salt of the earth vibes. Germanic, which again, someone that loves to travel and loves being around Germany. It's got that kind of like peppered in, which is exciting and cool. But yeah, I was Chicago about 9 years, and I'm coming up on about 4 years in Milwaukee.
That's cool. And obviously, the band wasn't all in Chicago either. So do you guys live in separate parts of the country? And how does that work as far as like, working together to write an album or to plan, what's going on with the band? Because I know the band is kind of like a somewhat democracy, even though you and Jeremy are the longest running members of the group.
Yeah. So for a good portion there, Jeremy, Andy, and I all lived in Chicago. And then our drummer and guitar player were both out West Coast. And then John, who's been now playing keyboards with the band for 9 years and produces the band and is a songwriter with the band and just has truly become the foundation of our band in so many different ways. He's always been Kansas City. And then when Kyle was Michigan, but wanted to leave for a while, and he ended up going to Kansas City too. So, and then Jeremy wanted to get out of Chicago and go south. So he's in Charlotte. Mason, who's now playing bass in the band, is now in Kansas City. And then Giuseppe, who plays drums in the band, is Pittsburgh. So we are completely scattered. Yeah. It's really like John is the manipulator, morpher, and like mastermind to us creating and writing songs. And he's the filter that everything goes through. And him and Kyle, they actually lived together for most of the pandemic before Kyle got a house. But that just made things very easy, and they can bounce stuff out to me. I'm horribly inept when it comes to computers. Certainly that means recording vocals. So John and I basically send lyrics back and forth to put things in a good enough place until I am in person and we can actually demo out what the vocals are doing. But really, I don't think it'd be a whole lot different if we all like lived in the same place. Like, I guess it could maybe inform a little more jam, because for a while we were very contingent on that. We had to get together from all over the United States and get in a room together and write jammier songs, or songs that weren't so like middle of the road metalcore songs. Mm-hmm. But anymore, it's like the way John is just like this director of our songs, sending things back and forth is totally cool. It's more stressed on him than it is for me, because he has to deal with like my shit as far as, poorly executed demo ideas and whatnot.
Right,
But
right.
yeah, we make it work.
That's cool. And moving up to Wisconsin, did your love for hockey have anything to do with that too? Because it stays a little colder up there, and I know you're missing the front tooth here. Does that have anything to do with hockey, or is that a microphone incident, or is that just something that happened in general?
So I am a huge hockey fan. Grew up loving hockey, played a little bit, but a number of years ago I got back into playing. I actually skated this morning. I'm all gross and sweaty. Actually, you can see my sticks in my bag here in my vehicle with me. Yeah, I'm a huge hockey fan. I lost my tooth when I was a kid, and I couldn't get a permanent one, and I had different ones that I put in. One time I broke it out with a microphone, but more recently, over the last 12 or 13 years, I got a permanent implant, but a puck broke it out. So originally I didn't lose my tooth from hockey, but as of recently, it was puck, not stick. And I keep going to different places being like, hey, can you fix this? And they're like, no. And I'm like,
what about like a retainer with the fake tooth on it? Did you ever have one of those, or did you want a permanent implant?
No, I've had those. Those things suck. The food that gets stuck and brushing and whatnot. So that's one positive that has kind of come from the pandemic, is that people don't stare at my mouth because we're all masked up.
Yeah.
But I've got another appointment coming up, I think Wednesday or something, and this guy is supposed to be an expert, so we'll see if I can get some answers there. But according to my girlfriend, she doesn't even notice it anymore. So if she's not unattracted to me, or oh my God, he looks like a drug addict or something like that, then I'm good with it.
Well, luckily you play hockey, so that's kind of how they all look. Every hockey player, for the most part, has either all the front missing or just one missing. So it looks like regular. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If someone starts talking shit out on the ice and I start chirping back, and they have either if they're wearing a cage, I have a full, all their fronties intact. I got the edge there.
Yeah. So
in terms of grit.
You don't have.
It isn't so attractive off the ice, though.
Yeah, I can see that. You don't have a bottom. Not to make you self-conscious or anything, Mike, but you don't have a bottom half of your mask, or do you just have open face helmet, or do you have a visor, or?
I wear a visor, so I didn't wear anything. But then when the pandemic shut everything down, I'm like, I should start wearing a visor, and I'm going to be really bad when I start playing again because I'm going to be so out of practice. So I was like, I'm just going to learn to play again with a visor. And by now I'm used to it. It is not so convenient, but I'm also short, so I have that going for me, which means I somewhat routinely will take a stick high as far as follow throughs. And it is nice to have a visor for that. So, just beer league and a bunch of old men scooting around the ice.
Yeah. No, I've definitely thought about joining back up. I used to play hockey when I was a kid. Even though I am based in Florida here, I did fairly well. My family is half my family is from Canada, so I am also a hockey fan as well. And I grew up playing hockey and found that I kind of excelled at it. But unfortunately, being in Florida, there's not much I can do post, being 18 with that. So I just kind of let it fall to the wayside. But in the later years here, I've been thinking about, man, it'd be cool to have a rec league or something to play with some dudes. But I always had a full face mask. Is yours full now, or do you have one of those, just the eyes up?
No, just the visor, just the eyes.
Oh, man, living life dangerously.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you a?
It's what's the phrasing? I can't think of it. Who's your team though?
The Lightning.
They're screaming.
They are screaming. Yeah, they're doing really well. And I was kind of gonna guess that you either are going to be a Penguins fan because you were born in Pittsburgh, or maybe a Columbus, Ohio fan. Do they even have a team still? I don't know, but
They do, Blue Jackets. But no, I'm Pittsburgh all around. But in terms of rec league, if you want to get back into it, let me encourage you, because while it does open the door for old men being douchebags routinely, it comes with a lot of fun too. So that's how I spend a number of hours a week up here in the good land.
Yeah, no, it's always seemed fun. And you know, I had a small group of my close friends when I was a kid growing up that also played. And I mean, now we're over in our 30s, and you know, we always joke about it, but I'm like, damn, you know, like we were kind of good. Like, I mean, obviously I'm not going to say we were the best in the entire league, even though I was like highest goal scorer for a while, but you know, I'm sure it comes back a little bit, like, you know, just like that. But we're older and we move a lot more weirder, so it may not come back as quickly, you know.
You know what? There's a lot of old guys that play hockey. You know, the time to get out of the house and drink beer, and I mean, if you're a top goal scorer.
When I was 17, settle down, Mike. I'm way older than that now. I'm way older, and I weigh a lot more, unfortunately, than I did back then. So I may not be moving as quick out there, you know. But well, it's good that you're also small too. You can probably duck a lot of these checks. And is it full contact, or is it kind of like, you know, not as full contact out in that league?
No, I don't play in any contact leagues. I don't know if there are any. Some guys will play a little more physical, but that just gives you room to chirp. As far as if, like, I actually just played a team on Tuesday night, and they're just like all hardos, like guys, like, you're not getting a bonus if you win tonight, or you want to fucking cross check me. Like, I asked one guy that was playing me a little physical if his dog died, and he didn't get back to me, so I'll take the W on that one.
There you go. Yeah. Now, do you feel like you have more of a do the guys in the rec league know what your profession is outside of that hobby?
Some of them, and I'll get like chirped, like, "Oh, he's a rock star." I'm like, "Shut the fuck up."
Does that give you does that make a target on you on the ice? Like, do you think that helps with like them going after you more, or being more like, you know, verbal to you?
You know, a buddy of mine that I've gotten pretty close with, we were playing a game, and he's a longtime fan of the Devil Wears Prada. And again, we ended up becoming good buddies, and we drank some beer, and we played on a team together. And I think like some of our early skates, he would like just light me up because he wanted to have the satisfaction of being a better player than me,
right?
As a longtime listener of the band, but I can't really say much past that. Most people are just like, "Oh, I hear you playing a band," and I go, "Yep."
Yep.
And then they'll probably say what everyone says, and they go, "Where can I find you? Like YouTube?" And I'll go, "Yep."
Yep. Go ahead. Do people ever like look you up and then come back and be like, "Yo, what the fuck? Your band has like over 200 million likes on Facebook, and you got like millions of streams on Spotify and Apple. Like, what the hell, bro?"
Yeah, sometimes, and I'll just be like, you know, it's I play in a band.
I'm sure it's awkward for a lot of people checking it out too. They probably don't assume it's going to be of this kind of caliber. Depending on what album they choose to listen to or song they listen to check you out, it can be a vast number of different things.
That's true. And our song "Chemical" is seeing some really positive success as of late. So, you know, I don't mind if that's the first song people listen to, where it's not. It's a lighter vibe. It's a more rock oriented vibe, and you know, our band likes doing that. We like doing all the chugs and the Z2 songs, or a song like The Thread off the act, and we love doing songs like Chemical or Diamond Lost or Isn't It Strange. So yeah, I hope they don't click Still Fly, but can't control everything.
Yeah, no, you can't. And yeah, that must be hilarious if they do, and if they bring it up. That, you know what, that could probably be a good slight on the ice rink. So some kind of toss back to your cover song. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Speaking of hockey, though, you also have like as part of you being a cool guy entrepreneur, you one of your things is you have a hockey company. I don't is it clothing line, or is it? Do you do other kind of things in hockey? Or
we so during the pandemic, I just kind of, being bored and restless, I kind of saw a gap in quality hockey apparel. It seems like a lot of hockey apparel is usually just like super jokey and like immature, which is great. Like, hockey culture is the best culture in terms of euphemisms and just phrases and the way hockey players can be. But I wanted something that heightened quality and also expressed where the game is going in terms of opening up the game for more people and becoming less of a white guy sport.
Yeah.
So we've only worked with one charity so far, but that's certainly a part of the bones of Hacksaw. It's called Hacksaw Hockey Club. Again, the band's photographer, Anthony, my very dear friend, him and I do it, along with our designer, Luke. It's been fun. I do the orders, I do fulfillment, and just piece together stuff that I would want to buy for the most part, as someone that is obsessed as I am about the game. And also just really trying to use our voices, not to be so terribly cliche, but use our voices to try to pump the tires of women in the game and Black people in the game and any minority that wants to get involved. And for a very long time, it's been just a white dude game.
Yes, I agree.
And that's a part of the ethos is to make sure that we can try to promote that to anyone that wants to get on the ice. Like, again, cliche, but the more the merrier. I truly believe that in terms of like how fun it is to every component of the game in terms of speed and everything. So, Hacksaw Hockey. It's been fun. It's been a grind as we try to get further off the ground and more product. And, there are dreams of more connections with bigger organizations and leagues and partnering and whatnot. But, we're just some dudes that started making t-shirts and such, hats and jerseys. And we look forward to seeing where we're at in the coming years.
That's cool. Yeah. And you brought up the inclusion aspect of it. And, I just want to go ahead and prop up my Tampa Bay Bolts yet again. I think they were the first team in history to have an all black line on the ice. So that was kind of cool. I applaud those guys. And it is cool that, more people are getting into the game, because I think a lot of people like joke, at least down here, and I live in the, more southern area of the country, but they joke off about hockey and more baseball and football oriented, in my area. But the people that check hockey out, obviously, they either love it or hate it, but most of them love it because it's so fast paced. It's way physical, obviously, and there's a lot going on, and that they don't stop the game as often as like any other sport. So it's really fun to watch. If you don't watch hockey, especially, you should probably check it out now because the playoffs are going on and it's getting kind of crazy. But yeah, it's a fun sport, man. I have one more hockey question for you.
Sure.
I know they're talking about maybe taking away fighting. What is your stance on that?
It's a bit of a tale as old as time sort of conversation. I think I understand. I think the league doesn't always do a great job, and everyone on the internet can quickly get all bent out of shape about this or that. Or this suspension, like that's been a lot of the talk lately, is like this guy's suspended too long, this guy not suspended at all, like this and that. I think the league has done a good job in terms of some of the things regarding helmets, and limiting the players to be able to fight as safe as possible, if that makes any sense. Yeah. It sounds silly, but it's very real to fight safely. Mm-hmm. It's a code. Like, hockey is so dictated, I don't want to say by morale, but I can't think of the word, but you know, the players regulate themselves in a lot of different ways, and that certainly is included in fighting. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the big dogs are about to take that away anytime soon. It's a part of the game for certain players, and a lot of guys have to use it to get a job and to be able to bring that component, that rough edge to their team, and that's how they get paid millions of dollars. But there's a lot of amazing speed and pure talent for smaller guys that just light it up, and that's a component of their game. It's almost as positional as like football in a way.
I don't mean like comparing it to that, because football is so like there's only like 4 minutes of gameplay and a whole 4 hours of what I mean? And I love football. Like I have a home team here in Jacksonville, Jaguars. We just got the #1 draft pick, so it's about to get crazy for us here. But I really have a problem with, like, you go watch a game or you watch on TV and it's like toot toot, the whistle goes, one play, and then 4 minutes in between the next play, and I'm like, come on, let's get it going. That's why hockey's so good, because it's so fast paced, and they're flying around the ice and all this other stuff. But fighting does, I think the word you were thinking was momentum. It can change the momentum of a game too. You know what I mean? Because your team may be down by a goal or two. I'm obviously not if you're getting blown out, but if someone gets in a little scuff on the ice and your guy wins, so to speak, that could really bring the morale up and make the team play a little harder.
Exactly. There are a million different things that can happen in the game to either deflate a team or get the momentum going. And one of the most prominent ways and one of the most celebrated ways in the game of hockey is for guys to punch each other.
Yeah. And it's pretty dangerous. It's pretty hard to even do, because, again, you're on ice. You got to hold this guy. You got to try to beat him with the one hand and everything. And, the fight doesn't stop for those who don't. The fight doesn't stop until you hit the ice, for those who don't know how fighting works in hockey. But yeah, so they try to get as much in as they can before one of them slips.
Yeah, and I even earlier this season there was in terms of the fighting conversation, I forget who it was, a younger player probably called up, and he wanted to go Marcus Foligno, and the Foligno boys are big. And this player, again, he's just trying to get a job and with the big boys. And he was taking a total beating, and Foligno called in the officials and said, it's a sign of respect, he wanted to get his team pumped up. He's going to answer the call. He's getting just, the shit beat out of him. And then the other player, being Foligno, is saying, oh, all right, you got your fight in. And, he didn't have to beat him to a pulp or injure the player, because everything that needed to be said in that bout was said. So again, that's the sort of code that exists a lot more in terms of fighting than just seeing two guys, trying to punch each other in the head.
Yeah. Yeah. So moving on, another hobby you kind of have is being a writer. Are you, do you read a lot of books? Is that how you got into writing, or is it just because you were writing lyrics and, maybe some other things, or do you not even read at all?
No, I read quite fervently. Honestly, you'd think during the pandemic you'd be reading a lot, but for me it felt so uninspiring. I haven't been reading so much the last year and a half. But no, it's always been a huge part of my life, and I always jotted poetry and whatnot. So early on as a 16-year-old joining the Devil Wears Prada, like for me, one of the biggest components of it was that it was a medium for my writing. And it's always been very important to me, and I've self-published some different projects and whatnot. But I've always been under the impression that, you know, to create one album, you need to consume X amount of albums, you know, thousands of other things. And I tend to bring the same sort of mindset to literature in terms of to create or to write, even if it's something lyrical. You have to consume so much of other people's work. And I think it's also, in blatant terms, just an important means of education and information, even fiction, as I most often consume. But yes, I do love to read.
My follow-up to that is, since you just said fiction, what are some of your, you know, favorite writers or favorite book/series from those writers? I'm going to write these down because I also am on a fiction kick currently. As you can see, I have Dune and The Dark Tower right behind me. So I'm currently reading The Dark Tower. I just bought Dune because that's going to be the next dumb series that we're going to spend probably a year reading because it's so freaking long. But we're in book 3 of the Dark Tower. So what's your favorites?
My favorite novel in the world, or of all time, or whatever, is Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. Anything I like that wave of French writers, and his wife/mistress Simone de Beauvoir, who had such an important, huge role defining feminism. Her fiction is really good, and I still haven't read everything from her, but same as like the Russian greats. I've read Brothers Karamazov a few times from Dostoevsky, and Vladimir Nabokov is probably a top 5 writer for me in terms of Lolita specifically, or Anton Chekhov is a really good introduction to Russian literature. But I still have a long way to go. I still haven't read War and Peace or Anna Karenina. Trying to think. I like to mix things up as far as, like, you know, the really dense Russian stuff. I will then want to read something pretty a different pace, such as like something like Hemingway. Mm-hmm. And then I've also read a ton of hockey books lately. It's only a matter of time till I bring it back to hockey.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah. But I've been going through, I don't know why I wasn't reading more hockey books prior to as of late, but oh shoot, I forget the name of it. Vendela Vita. I don't know if I lose Zoom on my phone if I go to my notes. But yeah, the same. I also like to read more contemporary stuff that I try to find written recently, as not to become all jaded about things.
Yeah, because you were rattling off a lot of, like, you know, classic books, like, you know, Tolstoy's you haven't read War and Peace, but, you know, Lolita and some other things. Those are, like, you know, they've been around for quite some time, at least for the most part. I didn't know where to start. I just started reading like a couple, 3 years ago, as far as like leisurely. I just didn't read anything if it wasn't on the internet, on a website, or on my cell phone. So I started thinking, like, you know what, man, just buckle down and start reading some books. So I started with some small books. And actually, one of the first books that I kind of read was Keith Buckley from Every Time I Die's Watch. And that was like a crazy book. And so I am interested to know what kind of stuff you write, because you have a couple different books. What was it? Bullet Made
Tambourine.
Bullet Made Tambourine, yeah. Is that the most recent one?
I'm sorry, what?
Is that the most recent one?
Correct.
Okay.
It sort of rides the back of a different thing I came up with called 3 Dots in the Guilt Machine, which are just, I sort of describe it as like quick, I don't know, like these quick things that never really finish their breath in a way. But poetry, prose, I kind of just boil it together in those two releases, being Three Dots and Bullet Made Tambourine. I've written some stories that I still haven't finished because I've had a hard time with procrastination. But I also really got off the ground in terms of self-publishing when I wrote a book about a Prada record, and I wanted to break down lyric by lyric the whole thing. So that was like a first thing. And then I also wrote a short story based on one of the Prada songs. It's actually two. There's a song on one record, and then there's a part 2 version of that same story on the next record. And then I wrote a physical short story that I published. But I usually keep numbers down too, and just kind of throw them out there by, a few hundred every now and then. But Bullet Made Tambourine's online now. And I think there are versions of Three Dots up as well at my website. But I kind of, when it comes to like releasing these things, it's almost like a record. Like as soon as it's mastered and done, like I'm never ever going to listen to it again.
Yeah.
And I've written a few projects that I'm like, okay, it's available and for sale. Like I don't want to think about it. Like it's like just till you finally get over that hump and you start, riding the down slope after climbing so much.
Yeah. And these are physical items too that you can buy, not just ebooks, right?
Correct. I've never released any ebooks. I know that's probably an easy means of revenue, but I like physical, and that's how I've just always done it. I certainly have no issue. It's the same as, if someone wants to listen to a vinyl record versus streaming something or whatever. It's different strokes for different folks. Like it's opinion based, but for me, I've always read books. And that's how I've released them as well.
Well, I'm definitely going to make it a point to check out your newest one. I like to read, if I had the person on the podcast and they have a book, I'll probably read it. So I'm definitely going to check out Bullet Made Tambourine, and I'll get back to you with what I think on it. Not that I'm a reviewer or a critique in any way, shape, or form on literature at all, but I'll get back to you on it.
You can shit all over it. I won't. It will not hurt my feelings at all.
I'll tell you, the book that Keith wrote, The Watch, was just it's just a strange story, and like it's not bad in any way. It's just like I didn't know what to expect. You know what I mean? And Keith is a very eclectic kind of guy in general, and he's brilliant and smart and everything like that. So it was an interesting read. So I'm interested to see what what you got up your sleeves.
I appreciate that. Keith is something special. I've read both Watch and Scale. Watch being, I think, the more recent one. But I look forward to what he cooks up next as well. But yeah, appreciate that.
No problem. And you do some coffee here and there, right? You like coffee. You're a coffee kind of guy. You have a coffee company. How'd you get involved with that?
I got involved with that because Anthony, who I mentioned previously regarding Hacksaw and photography for Prada, he became close with a fella that runs an amazing coffee roaster in Chicago called Metric Coffee. And he connected us to make a TDWP coffee, and it ended up going over really well. And we just had a really great time cooking it up and getting to know the process more. I've liked good coffee for a while, and Chicago is very much a hub for it. And then later, Xavier, one of the owners of Metric Coffee, came to me about basically cooking up a brand and an idea that creates collaborative coffees or whatever we wanted to do, and using their means of fulfillment and roasting and sourcing. So I teamed up with Micah, who again also does a ton of graphic work for Prada. Like he did the layout for Z2, and him and his brother Luke did like the Z2 logo with the 2 strike throughs on the Z. But Mike has been a long time friend for a long time too. His band actually headlined, quote unquote, Prada's first show in 2005. 2005? Yeah, 2005. So Micah and Luke have been good buddies of mine for a long time, and Micah and I wanted to create this niche coffee brand that teams up with different factions across the board. We teamed up with the Flenser, being a record label. We've teamed up with different bands, being like Protomartyr from Detroit, or Mizmor being like a one-man black metal project from Portland. We teamed up with Old Blood Noise Endeavors, which is a guitar pedal company, and did a blend on one of their pedals that was really fun, and I'm very proud of that coffee. So yeah, if I get bored, I get panicky.
Sounds like it. I think what I'm going to do, I don't drink coffee, but I know like I don't want to say every band, but a lot of bands do have like somebody in the band that either has a coffee company or the band themselves has released a coffee, blend. So I think I'm going to make a website that's like coffeebybands.com or something like that. Just offer all the coffee that, listed by band. That might be a good thing. What goes into making a blend? Like what got you into coffee like that?
I'm pretty choosy across the board in terms of, literature and music. And I like drinking beer as well. And I tend to take a similar vision to that as far as enjoying good beer, and same with food and everything. So with coffee, just learning more about it and different processing methods and roasting and whatnot. Like I'm still very amateur in terms of my understanding, versus like Colin, who's roasting the coffee alongside Xavier and the whole staff at Metric Coffee. They're the true heroes and professionals. But yeah, it's just fun. It's fun to cup coffee and write down different notes in the whole process as far as your slurping and your smelling. And then usually we'll just do like a pot of coffee afterwards to just sit with it in a more, I guess, ordinary kind of situation. But yeah, it's amazing. And if anyone ever approached me about like making a beer, I would get way too busy because I'd be like, all right, I want to do that too. Like
that was my next question. Yeah. When's the Prada beer coming out?
Not soon enough. We've joked about Prada Pale Ale for a long time. But yeah, not to be a total snob, but it's the finer things, in certain regards, I suppose.
Do you drink the Prada coffee regularly? Is that like your go-to, or do you have a different go-to?
So the Prada coffee, we did like 100 bags and 100 mugs. And this was a while ago now too. But Metric has sourced that coffee pretty religiously from this farmer that they have a great relationship with. So I have had it post Prada coffee. And they make different tweaks and process it and whatnot. It's a plant and a bean that, it changes. But I don't think I've had it in a while. I'm trying to think of
would you be able to tell if you like were blind tested, if someone handed you a cup of the Prada coffee, would you be able to tell like, hey, this is Prada coffee?
Probably not, in all honesty. I'm not like a sommelier.
There might be a different word for a coffee person, but I know what you're getting at. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's the Prada coffee was just like this nice, like it wasn't like super like tea like, and I don't like dark roast coffee, like black coffee. Like I don't really dig that at all. So it was like this nice middle ground, but still like nice like blueberry and chocolate. I hate saying chocolate because all coffee tastes like chocolate, but it was good. It had a lot of interesting things happening for someone that can be very choosy with coffee, or someone that's like, yeah, I'll have a cup of coffee here and there.
Do you prefer decaf or caffeinated?
I drink all caffeinated coffee, but I do, as someone that suffers with anxiety, I don't drink coffee more than once a day, usually, unless I'm in the studio. Like if Prada's recording, I drink a lot of coffee, but usually on my day to day, I only drink a cup a day. So I'm not getting antsy.
Interesting. And Are you still in another band, God Alone? Is that still a current an ongoing project?
No, not so much. Kyle plays guitar. Kyle and I started a band called God Alone. And then he joined the Devil Wears Prada, and now both of us are just very busy in that world to kind of pursue more of God Alone. But we've done like some basement tours, and we released a full length. We self-released a EP years ago. It's very reflective of my personal music choice and kind of Jesus Lizard world and the workings of Steve Albini. But no, we haven't really done anything in a number of years.
Interesting. With someone who likes to travel a lot, how often would you prefer to tour? Because I know, like in the beginning, it was like you would just go for the year because you were a young buck and stuff. But you're a little older now. What's the ideal tour situation for you? And are you guys still open to like roughing it?
Roughing it doesn't get easier when you get older.
No, of course not.
But I certainly don't choose or wish to tour as much as we once did in like the early 2010s. I would much prefer, travel outside of work as well, but it's amazing to work and also have the benefit of traveling. I don't know. We'll see. I think it kind of goes without saying that touring's really going to pick up, seeing as everyone's been starved and like suffocated of it. So we'll see how that looks, but they tell me where to be and I'll be there and I'll yell the songs.
There you go. Do you guys have anything like planned coming up this year as far as like live shows go?
We do. We have not announced it yet. I imagine we'll be announcing it soon. I just don't want to be crushed again and have it called off again. So like, I won't believe that live music is back until I'm on a stage, like regardless of preparations and everything. And I don't mean to be all too pessimistic, seeing as, especially like in hockey world, again, I'll bring it back to hockey. You're seeing full barns up in Boston, and I mean, it's been that way in Florida for a minute, but in Carolina and everything. So it's certainly looking up. I'll say we hope to be playing shows again in September, October.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, the soonest show that we have here in town, I guess, Madball in July. So I'll be interested to see how that goes. It's going to be at a smaller type venue too. And I know Madball just played to like 3,000 to 4,000 people up in New York a month ago. And God, that's going to be just a crazy show back. First show back, with the small venue, Madball, and old school hardcore tough guy music. It's going to be a little bit nutty. And I'm going to wear a mouthpiece or something. I don't know.
Get the equipment back out. I can't. I still feel weird being in bars, like distanced. So yeah,
it's definitely been a little different down here. I can say that for sure. It's just been wide open for at least the last year. So we definitely are living up to the Florida man name, but it hasn't. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know if it's bad or good. You know what I mean? I'm just living life down here, so I don't necessarily understand what if it's negative or positive. But Mike, it was great having you on, man. Easy chat. I love these easy chats. Obviously, when we have a couple things in common that we enjoy the same, it makes it easier. Hockey's one of those things. Metalcore is one of those things, and reading is one of those things. So, unfortunately, I'm not as well traveled as you are across the world, or else we would have that in common. But it's been a great time. I look forward to checking out your book, and I look forward to seeing more Prada in the future, which leads me to my last and final question. Where is Prada going to be in the next 5 to 10 years? What's the goal for the band?
Especially on Lambgoat, no one wants to hear like the metalcore band trying to chase like radio commercial success. But dipping our toe in the water with our song Chemical has been exciting. And there's a lot of energy there. So, again, we're writing now. Some of it, one of the songs that I've worked on was like almost basically a song that was unfinished for Zombie 2. And then another one is just like, I hate the word ballad, but I don't know. We just want to do what we choose to do, what we're in the mood to do. So in the next 5 to 10 years, I think it's just going to be, you're going to get songs like Chemical, and you're going to get songs like Z2, and Prada's live show has always been a priority all these years, and that's only ever heightened. So I think that we work and grind as hard as possible to deliver, and I think the results will show the next 5-10 years.
Awesome. And I lied. I have another question that just popped into my head because we're talking about like radio type rock songs. Is there a way you think maybe that you can kind of still obtain like the scene metalcore vibes, but also appeal to, like, I hate saying butt rock, but like, like Three Doors Down type band fan bases and stuff like that, like big, like Disturbed. Like there are bands that are heavy that are still on the radio technically, but they maybe not, those fans maybe not travel down the pipeline far enough to hear like metalcore and other kind of underground metal.
I don't know. I think that we're seeing it with bands like Parkway and Architects and Bring Me, and like they're seeing huge festival success. And I think that could be the turning corner for the new heavy being like our generation, like our world of when we were growing up with, Metal Blade and Trustkill and Vagrant and Solid State and all this. Like, I think the ones that are still grinding from that era are seeing the success. Goes without mentioning the A Day to Remember fellas. I don't know. I think it's becoming a bit more ordinary to be listening and consuming music that feels more of our world rather than, when I was growing up, the radio world was just like a world apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. At some point, hopefully a band like, I know it was a big band that you like, but like the Chariot, if we could see like mainstream success for bands that are somewhat like the Chariot, I think would be good to go, a festival with like some kind of band like that headlining would be insane. And I hope that's where we're kind of on the trajectory. Although we do have to get through, the ebbs and flows of that. But hopefully one day we'll get there,
I'll text Josh and say, bring back the Chariot, and he'll never talk to me again.
Oh, yeah. No, I had Josh on the podcast already. That was, that's the question everyone wants. And I'm, spoiler alert, but I'm going to have Stevis on too, from Fever 333 and the Chariot. And we'll ask him again too. But, that's something that probably won't happen for some time, if ever.
Stevis is awesome. Stevis is the best dude. Yeah, Stevis actually sang on a Prada song. Fun fact.
Nice. Which one?
Detroit Tapes from Transit Blues. I miss him. I see him. He comes and hangs out in Atlanta. But yeah, man, thank you so much for having me and taking the time, and probably upsetting Lambgoat listeners and viewers, but they can count on TDWP to do that.
Always and forever, man. Well, again, Mike, thanks for hanging out, and we appreciate it very much. Good luck with everything, and good luck with the new record that you're kind of working on.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
You as well, bro.